Fell, he's back, one of our favourites. It's been a little while since we've seen him. Jason Perko Perkins, where have you been, buddy?
I actually just got back from Sri Lanka and Singapore a week ago.
I didn't pick that.
No, Sri Lanka, first time I've ever been to the subcontinent, that part of the world.
Wow.
And, man, I was told ahead of time, I have very close friends that are Sri Lankan. I asked them, if you could describe your culture in one word, how would you describe it?
What did they say?
They said warm. They said the food is warm,
Yes.
the people are warm, the temperature is warm, and they were so right on. I loved every moment of the
Beautiful.
2 weeks that we were in Sri Lanka. And then my wife and I, we actually did a bit of Sabbath in Singapore before we came home. So it was
nice.
lovely. Yeah, 2 weeks of ministry there, helping church leaders to really strengthen and enrich their marriages.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it was
That's
fantastic.
Well, you mentioned your lovely wife, Kristen, there.
Yes.
We've had her in here before. Tell her
have.
we miss her. We
I
want her
will.
back.
Yes.
She needs to be coming back for next year, I tell you
Yeah.
what. Now, talking about all things next year, I'm looking at your beautifully redesigned website here, perko.company. We'll put the links out there. You've got something special planned for the end of the year.
I do. You guys, you know that week of the year, the last week of the year between Christmas and New Year's where you wake up and you're
love that
like...
week.
The
I
time
do-
where time doesn't exist.
Exactly. You wake up and you're like, what day of the week is it?
Where am I?
Yeah.
What happened?
Is it the New Year? Did I miss the New Year's Eve thing? That week, we're actually scheduling something. Here's what we're doing is most people, I think, listening to your show have a desire to grow spiritually each and every year and to deepen their relationship with Jesus. That week of the year is a great time to reflect on the previous year and to think about the year going forward.
Yes.
And we're going to be doing a webinar to help people actually put an intentional plan towards their spiritual formation, their intimacy with Jesus, and caring for their soul in 2025.
Wow.
And so we've got a webinar. It's a free webinar, and I'm going to coach people through an ancient tool called a rule of life. Don't be scared by the word rule. It's not a legalistic thing. I grew up in like hardcore legalism, so I'm like against all those things. It's simply a structure, a plan for your spiritual growth and your relationship with Jesus in 2025. And I want to help people go into 2025 with a plan for how they're going to grow spiritually.
Hang on. And you said, let me just get this straight. You said a free webinar.
That's it. Yeah, free webinar. It's just 1 hour. And
Wow.
we're going to give some free tools away. So there'll be some practical things you'll walk away. You're going to walk away with an actual plan for your spiritual growth in 2025.
All right, we're going to put the link out there for everybody to go register. I'm going to be registering, so I'll be there for the getting the rule of life for 20. It sounds like I need some rules for 2025, so I'll be registering for the webinar right there. We'll put the links up on our socials. But what I'd love to do with you in here talking about that, I'd love to get some of the ideas that you've got maybe brewing behind the scenes of what you're going to be doing during the webinar. Are you ready to give us a little bit, a little bit of a taste for free?
I want to give you a small kind of understanding of what a rule of life is, because even that phrase, I get it. There's probably a bit of pushback from some listeners going, I don't need more rules for my spiritual life. Like God, works in mysterious ways. I believe that, but he's also a God of order. And so I want to unpack what a rule of life is. I can't wait to do that.
Well, we have Jason Perko Perkins with us. And Jason, I love it because if Christmas is too early for DJ, you're actually talking about the new year.
Yes.
That week between Christmas and New Year. I'm all for going ahead. So this is fantastic.
Well, see, it's funny. I get very bar humbug about Christmas. But when you start talking about New Year's, I'm
you're
all
happy
in.
with that?
I'm all in for this type of
Interesting.
stuff. Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's some psyche there. But
Yeah.
You guys familiar with Strengths Finders, that assessment? On that assessment, I score very high in something called futurist. So I do struggle kind of looking too far into the future. So I understand some people may be like, wait a second, it's November. Why are we talking about Christmas? It's not even December yet. And now Perko comes on and he's talking about the new year. I apologize. I'm a futurist, but yeah, I hope it's helpful.
No, it's very exciting. But we're talking about a great webinar. So this applies anywhere anyone in the country.
Yeah.
You can jump online. How long does it go for?
It's just 60 minutes. We're just going to take a short 1 hour webinar to unpack an idea called a rule of life. And I know some people like that word rule I've already mentioned is a bit of a struggle. It really comes from original Greek and Latin, with the idea of a trellis
Okay.
is really where the word comes from. Kind of imagine a grapevine. Jesus talked a lot about a vine.
Yes.
They grow on a trellis. You think of any grapevines and things, beautiful flowers and things oftentimes need a structure to grow on. When we talk about our spiritual lives and our soul, a rule of life is simply a structure or an intentional plan to help you to grow your spiritual life on and help it
Excellent.
to bear much fruit is the goal. Yeah.
That explains why I've been looking at your website here, Full Rule of Life.
Yes.
I'll put the link up there. I'm like, why has he got some greenery on a
I
lattice
was
going?
thinking a trellis was a bit of an odd choice.
Yes. But
It all
that's
makes sense. It all makes
it's
sense.
to help you grow the vine of your inner life and to bear fruit. That's really what
Beautiful.
Okay, so where can I ask you a question about it? Where did you find it, and how has it been helpful for you?
it is. Okay, so the rule of life is actually an ancient practice from 2nd, 3rd, 4th century Christians. So you may have heard of these guys. They were kind of weirdos that left regular society, moved out to the desert. They were called desert fathers and mothers, and they were the spiritual leaders of the church in those centuries, the early days. They actually developed this thing called a rule of life, which was a structured way of doing life in community so that they would grow spiritually and not be kind of sucked into the society and culture that they were a part of in that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where it originally comes from. I first came across it because of a lot of the work that I do in the soul care space, spiritual formation, that kind of thing. So you may have heard of guys like John Mark Comer or Pete Scazzero, Dallas Willard, these kinds of names. They've been referring to rule of life for a long period of time. It's centuries old, thousands of years old. And it's literally an intentional plan to help you grow spiritually. And I want to help people develop their rule of life for 2025 in the webinar.
And it's been profitable for you.
Oh my gosh, has it been? Yeah,
Yeah.
5 years now. And I probably review my rule of life 3 to 4 times a year just to
Wow.
refresh it and to take a look at it. And this particular rule of life that we're going to be looking at comes from like a long history of monasticism where they look at your rule in 4 key areas. And I can unpack those for you. We're going to be looking at rest. We're looking at relationships. We're looking at prayer. And then we're also looking at our physical lives as
Mate,
well. Yeah.
In an hour. I find that amazing.
Can
Yeah.
I just say I've already registered.
Okay, good.
While we've been talking, I filled in my details. You've got it right there waiting for you in your inbox
Great.
when you get it out there. We're going to put the link out there, perko.company. If you're driving this morning, just remember perko.company. You'll find the link there. You'll be able to get it all across there. We're going to be putting it out there. I cannot wait. This is the type of stuff. I eat this stuff up. I love overviews and looking at life and sort of tweaking on it like like a mechanic does with a car there. This is going to be so much fun. Jason, thank you so much for your time coming in this morning. Going to get you back in here for a couple of weeks, and hopefully we can break this down a little bit further.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys, and can't wait to hang out with some people online at the end of the year.